volando, levantando vuelo, iluminando nuestro camino, sagrado abuelo, crece lindo.
And all those stars, if you look out in the sky, as a firework display like you see on the 4th of July, which is a great occasion for celebration. The universe is a celebration. It is a fireworks show to celebrate that existence is.
Wholeness, everyone out there. I'm Thomas Sakowitz, and I'm unifying solutions for an ancient future. Wow, today there is a lot of energy. I'm super excited to share this transmission with you guys today. This is something that has really been brewing for a long time. I've been collecting bits and pieces of this for a while now, but today it kind of finished off and completed itself in a way, and something just really came to me that this really needs to be shared right now. So the message for today is basically shadow work, the ego, and respecting the shadow as well. Now, so what is the ego? Well, the ego is basically a collection of thoughts and ideas, feelings, experiences that we have that are created through situations that go on throughout our life. It creates essentially an identity structure of all of these different things, and it creates our definition of what we believe that we are. Now, we are, of course, truly at the center. We are the Supreme Being, and the Supreme Being is actually ineffable and undefinable. This is where we get the idea of the ineffable name of God. And the essence of what this is that the Supreme Being truly cannot be defined. So the name is inherently ineffable, because once you speak it, you have defined it into something. And this is, of course, impossible for what is truly the Supreme Being, because it cannot be defined. But the ego and how this kind of coordinates is because the ego is what happens when we separate or define ourselves from the all that is. To give you a good example of how this works, imagine standing in front of the sun. Now the sun is spraying its light out in all directions, and then we stand in front of the sun as it's up in the sky, and we look down and we cast a shadow. So now the ego would be our definition, the outline or the border of our body in this case, and the shadow would be everything that we have decided not to include in this definition of ourselves or our ego. And so by defining this and separating ourselves from all that is, we have also disincluded a vast array of things. Now, this can get a little bit tricky when we get into this part of things, because when we set up this definition, we're basically limiting the all that is. And by not including certain aspects in this definition, whether that's, I'm not an angry person, or I am a good person, so I'm not a bad person. All these different things, these situations, we create this structure. We are now leaving out a very large portion of ourselves, because we are truly all that is. So this portion of the self is then basically cast down. This is like the fallen angel from heaven. This is the part that has been cast aside or cast down into a lower level, not allowed to get into heaven or be included in heaven. And this portion of us, of course, is now hurt, scared, and feels the need to lash out and combat, trying to prove its way or force its way into the all that is, or the heavenly structure. And how do we deal with this, though? So if we understand that this definition and this separation creates this reflection and thus shadow, how can we really begin to deal with this and incorporate this into our life? Well, we can begin to look within. Wow, that was intense. We can begin to, little message from the birds there. That was incredible and amazing. So we can begin to look within and without at the messages that are coming to us about our ego structure. And we do this by seeing the things that come up inside of ourselves as what we are conflicting against or combating against. And then we succeed in this conflict by not going against these things and holding on tightly to this energy structure, this ego structure. We begin by recognizing and respecting the shadow for what it is, the part that has been left out. We have compassion for it by also being able to include this into the structure of our being. We can transform this by looking at the shadow and seeing how this type of energy can be a teacher for parts of us that we have left out or left behind. And by respecting it, by breathing in deeply when this structure or this archonic energy is in front of us, we breathe in deeply, we accept it for what it is, and we allow it to become and be absorbed back into our definition, which is essentially unlimited. So how this works with the ego is we can still have an ego per se, we can still have an identity structure, but do not be tied to it, do not be attached to it, releasing the need for that to be the only definition by breaking off the chains, by opening up our view and our definition of ourselves to include more things. We can take a identity structure for certain individual situations and for going about our interactions on a daily basis. We can still make choices, but when the reflections of these choices of this identity structure come back to show us the reflection, rather than combating them and resisting them and saying, no, you don't fit into this definition of what I've deemed as useful. When we allow them and respect them, we will notice that they just kind of disappear, in that when no longer feeling hurt or rejected, these aspects of us can then be integrated and let back into our lives, and they too are empowered to be the all that is. I hope this has been a great teaching. I know it is a super powerful one for me. It's been an interesting ride lately, integrating a lot of these aspects of the shadow. So have a beautiful day, and I hope you all do some shadow work tonight. Thanks.
And since you're all here and engaged in this sort of inquiry and listening to this sort of lecture, I assume that you're all on the process of waking up. Or else you're teasing yourselves with some kind of flirtation with waking up.